Hi, this is Evelyn of the Modern Needle, and I want to talk to you about yarn substitutions on these Aran weight sock yarns. How do we do this, and what is it that we're trying to figure out? Um, let's move this here. This is in support of my new pattern that was just released. It's called the Easy Peasy Canadian Winter Socks. And this here is my copy, so I show you how what's all in it. It is um, cuff down or toe up. That is up to you. And then I added a short chart at the end. It has 15 sizes. It goes from toddler to men's 16 extra large. So I marked mine all up because I was still doing the final math on it. However, you can see that I made short charts on what it is that you need for toe up or cuff down for men's, ladies, and kids. And really, this is the only thing that you need to print out. Whether you go up the foot or down the foot, it doesn't matter. But one of my testers has asked me a very interesting questions, and he said, so right now we're using Arian sock weight. And the one that I use most often is the Briggs & Little Tuffy. It's a Canadian yarn. Easy, gettable. It's about $10 now a hank, and one or two hanks will do for a really large pair of socks. A woman's medium, one hank is sufficient. So I believe that he bought different yarns. He bought chunky, which is 100 grams for 100 meters, and then he also bought bulky, 100 grams for 130 meters or yards. It doesn't really matter which way you want to go about it. And his question was, number one, do I use the same needle? Do I use the same size? And then of course, it affects your meterage or yardage depending on what you use. So even if you don't want to do any math, here is a quick thing that you might want to do. So I have knitted many of these socks. This is my Tuffy yarn sock. And even if you're not a swatcher, here is what you can do. You look at this, and this actually is my swatch. So you check whether you use thinner knitting needles to mark your spot. So let's say, and I had talked in a previous video about it's the smiles that you're looking for. This is the direction and this is your stitch. So you want to be on the right side and on the left side of a smile when you mark it off. And this yarn substitution that I'm talking about right now is mostly for socks. You can use it for other things too, but for right now, I'm really just talking about the socks. So I will count over, and this has been washed and blocked. So I will count over my 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 is almost okay. So actually, I don't even need this, to be honest, because I got 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. So let's do it this way so that it suits better. So I know that from each side of the leg I have 4 inches. So let's count out how many stitches I actually have in there. 1, 2, 3. Actually, sorry, I'll count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 or 19 and a half stitches is my 4 inches. So if you knit a swatch, you have to check how many stitches fit into this new parameter. I am thinking with a bulkier yarn, you might only get, here, I'll bring this paper back. So I have 19 stitches is my 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So I'm thinking on his new yarn. So let's say we'll go with the bulky. It doesn't actually matter because right now I'm making up numbers. I don't have his yarn. I'm in Ontario. He's in Alberta. So it's not as easy as I can just hop next door and say, give it to me for a minute. So let's say his new numbers will work out 15 or 13 for the same amount. So you know that he'll have to go down 1 or 2 sizes. That's just basically even what it tells you. If he knitted a men's medium before, so now he might want to knit a men's small or extra small. One of the easy ways to check this is, because my instructions are for top down or cuff down or toe up. If you do the toe up, once you knitted your toe cap and you knitted just a couple of rows, knit your toe cap, and let's say you want to do the small, you grab them the stitches that you need to cast on for the small and knit them, and then you fit them on your toe. If you don't have your foot there, you might have one of the footboards that we had talked about before, and pull it over the footboard. If it fits the footboard, then you know that that size is correct. If it's way big on the footboard, you need to go a size smaller. So just unravel a few rows, and I showed that in a previous video as well, how to do that even if you didn't have a lifeline, and unravel them to where it becomes comfortable. Then you just knit the socks with whatever stitches that you have, or even if you want to go top down, it'll give you a good indicator of how many stitches do I need here. Do I need the full spectrum of 150 or do I only need 20? So that's a good indicator to do it. And if you go toe up, it'll be a very easy double check. Now, if you make it for a gift, obviously that is a little bit harder. If you have, usually the feet in the family very often are the same, or you can see, oh, his foot is a bit narrower, his foot is a bit longer, whatever, you'll figure that part out. So without doing any math, that is an easy way to do it. Now, when you substitute yarns, feet are not as sensitive as your hands or even as your face. So if you want to check the yarn against your neck, that actually doesn't tell you what your foot feels. Your foot doesn't actually have the same sensitivities as your neck or as your face. So I find if the yarn gets too coarse, you may feel it when you walk on it. So be careful with that. If it's a really super squishy merino silk something, it may not matter. But do have a look at that. However, so let's say we're going to make house socks, nut socks, or whatever it is that you want. You can use the same pattern for it. When he knits it, he wants to have a rather tight gauge. So these are knitted with number 4 because that's how I got to have a really neat and tight gauge. Some knitters might only need a 375 or a 3.5, or they might go 425. You want to have a tight gauge for the sock, but it can't be so tight that it's stiff as a board. And the thicker the yarn, the more rope-like consistencies it gets. So if it is a soft yarn, like this Patents, what is it? Patents Shetland Chunky. This is an acrylic, but you can see how the yarn kind of gets this ropier effect because it is thicker. And I'm not even talking about walking on it. I'm talking about the tightness of gauge that you might want to achieve. You don't want to get it so tight that it's stiff as a board and you can't get it over your foot. So it has to be somewhere in between. Snug, but have a little bit of give. Whatever needle size that is. I'm suspecting if Art wants to use the chunky, he will have to look at a number 5 or even a 5.5 millimeter needle to get the fabric that he wants. And on the bulky, he might need to go to a 4, try that out, go to a 4.5 and see how that is. Because the bulkiness in a tight weight takes out the elasticity. And I actually done that with a pair of socks before, and I just couldn't get my foot in without struggling anyways. Not because it was too small, but it was just, the material was just too stiff. It wasn't comfortable, and it wasn't actually easy to wear. My foot felt like it had a helmet on. It was just not the most comfortable thing ever. So the first bit was your gauge, which is sort of easy to figure out. The second thing was the needle size. The third thing that you may want to watch is you may need more than 2 hanks of yarn to make one pair of socks. So in our original yarn with needle size number 4, it has 215 yards or 196 meters. And these numbers here are always more important than these numbers. 100 grams of silk can have 1,000 meters in it. 100 grams of chunky sock yarn only has 100 meters in it. So you can see how the difference is. So you need both measurements, yes, but that's only so that you compare apples to apples. You need to have the weight, kind of that you're in the same frame, but this will determine how much yarn you have to knit with. This is just to say how heavy the sock will be, but this is to tell you how much yarn do you have to knit with. And this brings me actually to another point. If you need 300 grams for one pair of shorty socks, or one pair of socks, maybe a 6-inch shaft on the leg, that'll be 300 or 400 grams, which is a little bit over half a pound and almost a pound for the socks. It goes into what you want to think about when you want to use these socks. Now, I got to tell you, this is 85 grams or 100 grams, and it almost feels like nothing. This is even lighter. So just hang on to your yarn and see how heavy will this be. Somebody elderly may not be able, or that has bone density issues or whatever, moving issues, 400 grams on the foot might be like a lead balloon on the foot. somebody that has no issues is not going to feel that weight at all, and it's not a consideration, but it could be a consideration. So think about that. So that is number 3, and you're going to need more. So the first bit is look at the gauge of the fabric and look at the fabric itself. How elastic am I knitting this? The second bit is the needle size. Work that out. If you start at the toe, this is only a toe cap. It's not going to take you very long. It'll be as long as making a whole swatch, and you have as much information from this as you do from making a swatch. However, this you can use to knit on. The swatch you'll have to rip back or put to the side or whatever. So for me, for socks, I seldom swatch. I just start knitting on, and then I'll see where I go. The toe cap has to fit over my toes, slightly stretched, just slightly. If that works, then knit on and keep track of your rows, and then do your heel, whatever size that is. So let's say he thinks, well, I want to do the chunky. I'm going to start with a small sock instead of the medium sock. Use the numbers for that. And if you find, oh, I actually should have gone to the extra small, then stop at the numbers for the extra small. Because the way that you increase it is, this would be the smaller size, then you get to the bigger size and the bigger size and the bigger size. So you're still right in your parameters of what it is that you want to do. Play with the needle size. If it gets too tight, you'll know. Or if you, let's say you get down to the sock, down to here, and you think, holy moly, this is just as stiff as a board, it's not moving, then rip it back. Yeah, it didn't really go very far, and use a needle size up or a half a needle size up. I would probably go in half size increments to see what it is that I want to do. And that's how you determine where you want to go. So let's say I actually really didn't want to do a toe up. I want to do a cuff down. So once you figure that out, you might be over here with your sock, then just stop, rip it back, and do your regular cuff down or whatever it is that you want to do. And this works like this for all weights. This is not just going from Arian to chunky to bulky to whatever. It's any kind of sock weight. So let's say, I don't know, I have 50 million patterns for the fingering, but I actually want to try a different weight. I want to go to a DK or a heavier sport or whatever. You would do just the very same thing. Check your gauge on your socks that you have and have made, and then look at whatever the yardage is. And in Ravelry, actually, even if you don't have the ball bends any longer, if you kept track of your yarn and put in the proper yarn that you used, when you click on that yarn, it'll open up and it'll give you whatever the yardages are for that yarn. So you kind of know. And just go from there. So it's not super complicated to figure out. It'll just take you a little bit. And the more notes you take in Ravelry, the better it is. Like I had said before, like I weigh my socks, I weigh my toe caps, and when I weigh the toe caps, it's the same as the heel, just knitted a little bit different. It's a different process of getting the same miter for the foot. So if I know how much my toe cap is, then I actually know how much my heel is. So if I have a contrasting ball like this laying around, I can weigh it. I can stick a little tag on here to tell me how much it is, and then I know I can get 1, 2, 4, 6 toes out of it, or toes and heels, because that's about the same weight. So 15 grams will make me a pair of sock toes and heels. But that's my gauge with my yarn. So you have to figure it out. But I weigh everything because I don't like losing at yarn chicken. So, and I don't like waste of yarn, to be honest with you. So have a look and see if that helps. The pattern for my socks has been released. It is on Ravelry right now until Christmas Eve 2023. There's actually a 20% off coupon code, which is my Christmas gift to you should you choose to buy it. It's $10 Canadian, so it'll be $8 when you buy it, and you have 15 sizes going up or down the sock. So it's actually a pretty good value, and you can use it for knitting for charity or your loved ones or whatever it is that you would like to do. So if you have any questions, put it in the comments and we'll talk later. Happy knitting. Bye bye.